Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Afternoon Tea and Crumpets with Raconteur Dave. Raconteur. Hope you have your delicious finger sandwiches and scones plated as we spend the next several hours together talking about both nothing and everything. And as usual, my most heartfelt thanks to all of you who have not given up on me yet. First, let's quickly catch you up on the family. But just know if you haven't watched my other videos, a lot of this won't make any sense. So hashtag time to binge watch David Persin's videos. So my 9-year-old son, he didn't like the fact that I wasn't going to pay him enough royalties for his previous video appearance. He has now hired an agent, and I'm scheduled to meet with that person next week. Then we have my wife. She's informed me that as long as our windows remain open, that is without window coverings, our marriage is now open, and she's formally seeing the drapery sales guy. Then there's my son's girlfriend, who this week asked my opinion as a financial advisor. What stock should she buy with her savings money? I told her I thought she should focus on the make everything that's dead into a puzzle company, because it looks like they're going to do pretty well. And my other son's girlfriend, she of the insecure personality, she was furious with me after last week's video. She did not like my commentary nor my characterization of her as insecure. As a result, she didn't end up talking to me for days. Geez, talk about insecure. And let's get real for a moment as we evaluate the last video. Well, I'd like to attribute those 2 thumbs down to my 2 full-time haters, or possibly people who didn't like my discussion related to grading. Something else is playing out when you really analyze the numbers, and those numbers fit perfectly with my kids and their significant others who have clearly band together to make a statement against me, feeling I'm trying to financially exploit them for my own gain. Let me just say Father's Day was a little bit more quiet than expected this year. And speaking of likes, comments, and other ways of helping me increase my YouTube reach, would you please be so kind as to either now or possibly at the end of the video, go to the comments and just tell me which Pokemon character is your favorite Pokemon character. Okay? Very simple, type it in, but makes a huge difference with respect to YouTube's assessment of my audience engagement, and will help me in hopefully helping newer collectors find these videos as well. My goal for this exercise this time is to have 500 of you go in and just type in one name. Hopefully very simple, easy. If you're watching this and you don't know anything about Pokemon characters, I'm not sure why you're watching this, but it is possible. Type in your blood type. Okay, type in A, B, O, positives, negatives. I don't know. You don't know your blood type. And if you are really a supporter of mine, do 2 separate comments and type in both. Type in Pokemon character and blood type. Because if you do it in one, it's just one. If you do it in 2, I get double the bang for the buck, right? I don't know my blood type. I think I should know my blood type. I don't know how to find out my blood type. And maybe we all should know our blood types. Maybe none of us know our blood types, okay? Something to think about, unrelated to anything I should be talking about at this moment in time. Okay, let's jump right into this week's pontificating. Look, I'm leaning up and down. I just keep doing that. I seem to be nervous. I've got some kind of rocking motion going on today. I don't know what's happening. Hi, Pikachu. You getting fun back there with your buddies? Good. Don't talk. I'm in the middle of a video. The topic of this week is going to be integrity, because I don't talk enough about controversial things. Let's just throw this right out there and hope to God I don't get any dislikes. No, not going to happen. Okay, so I sent off one of my daughters to boarding school. Yikes. A story for another day. One hell of a story, but we're going to talk about another time. One of the foundational tenets that they taught her in boarding school was integrity is important and is defined as what you do when no one else is watching. It's easy in the collectibles industry to operate without integrity, and unfortunately many sellers, especially I've had bad encounters with them, and all of us have, who either deliberately act in bad faith or just don't have good enough intentions to act in good faith. And our best way of coping with these sellers is either we are returning their products or we're providing them bad feedback, not patronizing them anymore, and telling others about our bad experience. Let me give you some examples. How about the seller who lists an item and you buy the item only to have the seller tell you that they're out of stock, come back the next day or two, relist the item for a higher price? Absolutely one of the most frustrating things in the world. What the seller has figured out when that happens is that they can get more money for the item, and they didn't realize the market had moved against them, and they want to raise the price so that they don't lose out on a potential profit proceeds. We as a buyer are very frustrated because essentially there's nothing we can do. And the reason there's nothing we can do is that on eBay, there's an inherent conflict against the larger sellers. eBay's revenues come from what sellers sell. So they'll give you a slap on the wrist. You might give the seller bad feedback. You should. Make sure you do. And we should all be reading down into the individual comment levels of feedback, because it can be really telling when there's a pattern of sellers doing that. But there's nothing they can do. It's just a general conflict of interest, and there's no reason for eBay to try to discipline them. Several months ago, by contrast, I listed an autograph card. Had it on the system, didn't know anything about it, found it in a box, put it out there. 2 minutes later, it's sold. 5 minutes after it's sold, I get a message from another potential buyer. Hey, I want to buy that card. Where is it? I said, I'm sorry, it's sold. The buyer said, I do not care what the other buyer paid. I should say the potential buyer said, I don't care. I will pay you double whatever that person paid. I have to have that card. Very easy for me in the moment to say, okay, sure, absolutely, I'll take double the money. I'll just make an excuse. I'll say I didn't have it. I'll say it was damaged, etc. But see, the problem is that's not operating with integrity. That's operating completely in the opposite of integrity, whatever that would be, okay? Unscrupulous manner somehow. So despite my personal frustration at not being able to have listed it for the right price and not knowing the market value, etc., who's that on? That's on me. And that's that personal accountability thing I continue to talk about. So I may not have reaped as much I could have in profits, but I can sleep at night knowing that I operate with integrity, and that's very important to me and my reputation. Another example, how about sellers who do posts or videos about the legitimacy or value of certain cards, that they are specifically intending to use those posts and videos to try to increase the value of the cards they are selling or decrease the value of cards they are wanting to pick up for themselves? One of the ways that you can find these kinds of, kind of nuances in some of the feedback and stuff is go out and look for other posts and videos that they've authored in the past. Look for inconsistencies. Look for one time they wanted something and it was great, and the next time they didn't. You're not going to be able to look down under the surface and know exactly what it is they're doing, what they're trying to do, but you'll be able to figure out, not in a robotic way, not to accept them as some expert that tells you what they say is exactly how it goes. Instead, evaluate it yourself, critically evaluate, and think about, are they really being objective, or do they have an underlying agenda in mind, a hidden agenda that's really more to their own benefits? There are so many more examples of ways for sellers to rip you off, including selling counterfeit cards, repackaging booster packs and boxes, selling weighed packs but not telling you that they're weighed, switching out cards out of PSA graded cases, etc. Today I'm going to talk about one that's kind of been on my mind lately. I'm going to focus on one which I'm going to call overstating card condition. So what do I mean by overstating card condition? Well, one of my daughters, who we haven't talked about yet, because there's always another child out there, and these are the ones that I know of, not possibly ones that I may have had something to do with their birth in another state, and that's for maybe a drink. We'll have a beer and talk about that later. So she likes to throw her 26-year-old knowledge around. Dad, I am so smart. Dad, I'm on the internet all the time. I know so much. Let me prove to you how much I know. I know a word you don't know. It's called gaslighting. Here's what it means. Gaslighting, Dad, is when you try and get in someone else's head by manipulating their belief system into something that's not essentially what they would believe, but what now, by being in their head, they think they believe. Okay? So time to go to Google and look the term up, gaslighting. Don't forget raconteur, R-A-C-O-N-T-E-U-R. The term made me think, gaslighting, of how liberal sellers have become these days with their grading terminology. So no more clear distinctions. We can't say near mint, mint, excellent, very good, good, near mint to mint, all these different kinds of things. We have above and beyond that. We also have light play, slight play, moderate play, heavy play, etc. And we even have sandbox play. I use the card to make a flying airplane play, anything and everything. And maybe those would all be fine. If I didn't feel like sellers were always trying to convince me and convince us that just a little bit lesser of condition is still perfectly fine and acceptable. I had a transaction with a company recently who I believe is the largest seller of Pokemon single cards in the country. They have a well-earned reputation for overstating the condition of their cards. This is a note I wrote to them after I received my cards. I'm going to kind of read a little bit here. I received several of my Pokemon card orders from you today. I don't want to be rude, but I have to say I was very disappointed. I'm not that particular a collector and do not grade my cards. Even while trying to be as lenient with grading standards as possible, at least 25% of the cards you send me, if not more, were light play or moderate play and not near mint or above as you listed. There were many cards which were just dirty, lots of finger smudges, cards with scratches, dings, pokes, indents, and everything in between. I wish you could understand the excitement I felt when receiving the order, thinking how I would be able to really enjoy these cards, and instead I had a whole project in trudging through card by card to figure out which ones were actually not near mint again as listed. Here is the company's reply to me, and I'm going to quote, "Items can be listed as near mint and still have some wear to them." Really? Some wear? I mean, this company does not even place their cards in card sleeves. Yeah, I guess I should expect smudges, scratches, dings, nicks, pokes, and overall wear, but no big deal. Surely they should all still be listed as near mint, right? Because they just have some wear. Do not fall for this scam. Do not let yourself be convinced you should be accepting a lesser quality product just because a large seller or sellers who lack integrity are trying to gaslight you into questioning yourself. Let's get this hobby back to where it needs to be from a consistency of condition assessment standpoint. And one last note about integrity before I move on to showing you this week's cards. Same company tries to convince me that the cards they're selling are near mint. The filthy cards they sent me. Let me tell you about another one of their policies. Okay. You go onto their website, you're placing an order. If for any reason while you're placing that order, the website fails, all of the items that you have placed in your cart, and this is right to the very last second of placing the order, they disappear and they're no longer available for you to buy at that point in time. Within 24 hours, the items will be listed again and usually at a much higher price. So this happened to me recently. I get to the end of a large order, I get dumped out. Frustrated, a lot of time spent, can't buy the cards, not available. Call them the next morning, less than 12 hours later. I say, look, I wasn't placing an order last night. The website dropped me out. I just want to continue to buy what I was buying. Can you help me out? I want to buy them for the same. And by the way, by now the prices have gone up and they're relisted less than 12 hours later. So I said, I don't want to pay higher prices. I didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't my fault that your website failed. I just like to buy the stuff that I was going to buy last night for the same price I was going to buy it for 10 hours ago. No, I'm sorry, sir. We don't do that now. We shift our prices automatically all the time. And the only way we can do that, we could maybe go to our affiliate sellers that we sell for, some of them as well. And we could ask them if they'd be willing to hold their prices for you, but most of them won't do that. Okay. So I press and press and press. Long story short, they actually go and make calls to their affiliates. Out of all of the people that they were selling cards for, including themselves, they would not hold prices for themselves as well. Only one single seller was willing to hold their prices. That was Rusty at TCA Gaming. So I'm going to shout Rusty out and say, wow, what a refreshing thing to find someone who I was buying 2 sealed booster boxes and didn't say, oh my God, I could make another $1,000 off the guy or whatever it was. I'm going to do what's right and hold the prices because he didn't do anything wrong. Do you think the parent company, I'm calling them the parent company in this case, should have said to their affiliates, this should be our policy? You don't get to change the prices. We're not going to change the prices for you. You had agreed to sell something the night before. The website failed, no fault of the buyers, and we're going to just arbitrarily raise and ask you if that's okay? No, they don't care. No integrity. I want to tell you the situation because, again, I want to contrast. I list cards all the time, list packs. So recently I had a card listed for about $300. I guess this was a pack, a sealed pack, $300. Somebody messaged me. They didn't offer me. If you offer, I can't necessarily change a price or whatever, but they messaged me and they said, look, I don't just want one, I want 2. So I go out, I look at the pack, and I realize I should be at $400. The market's shifting that dramatically. I shifted the price from $300 to $400 before I even got back to the gentleman. But what I said to the gentleman when I got back to him was, hey, I shifted the price realizing it was too low. I can't sell you more than one pack at that price. I'm sorry. But I am willing to sell you one at 300 and not 400 because that's what the price was when you messaged me. Should I punish him for messaging me? No. Do I have integrity? Yes. Did it cost me $100? Yes, it sure did, but it was the right thing to do. Folks, the message here is you either care or don't care about your reputation. But eventually, if you don't care enough, I guarantee your lack of integrity will catch up with you. And my experience with this company is on the one end of the spectrum. My experience with Rusty at TCA Gaming, who I don't know that well, I just know of his background and his past in the industry, been in for a long time and very impressive type of business, was very different and stays with me a long time on both ends again of that spectrum. Okay, I'm coming off my soapbox again. Today I want to show you some square cut cards. These cards are best associated with the base unlimited set, the holographs of that set. There are 16 holographs in that set, but the Machamp doesn't count because I don't think it was on a production sheet the way that it was done. So essentially we've got 15 holographs outside of just the number 8, 1 to 16, that came in one form or another as square cuts. If you look over my shoulder, you can see an uncut sheet behind me. That's a production sheet all together before the sheet is cut down. Okay, I happen to have 2 of these 15 card sets, not by choice. One I bought in February of 2005, which I bought individually together as a set, but not as part of a set, just this 15 card set for $300. Then I found later in the collection I bought in the back of the collection that I bought later in 2005 that the base unlimited set had these 15 square cut cards in there as well. Now, remember I had no idea what I was doing when I started out in this hobby, so I buy these cards thinking that they're error cards, and that's how they were sold as, and even today they're often sold as error cards. But I want to make it clear that I have a background in cards and card production, starting in 1989 when I was one of the original 13 distributors for the Upper Deck baseball card company at that time in the country. And so I can tell you unequivocally, these cards are not error cards, and they should not be referred as such as error cards. They're basically deliberately done. So let's talk about that. We're going to talk at some point about the controversial topic of what an error card should be or isn't. But I just want to say this. At its most basic level, an error card should be related to some type of mistake. That's the whole critical thing, the way I distinguish. Having square cut corners was not a mistake. Rather, I speculate, and I don't speculate most of the time because I'm not going to be wrong, but I do speculate when I'm 99% plus believing I'm right, that these were just cut off production sheets. So, deliberately cut, by the way, not somebody mistakenly, sleepwalking and making some cuts. And production sheets are the beginning of the production process or somewhere near, I guess, in the process of producing the cards. But even if they were special sheets that were not the actual production sheets and they came out a different way, somebody deliberately cut them down. That's how you get square cut corners when they normally should have round cut corners in these types of cards. So our topic today was integrity. And calling these cards errors to me is not something that people should be doing. I know that ideally sellers are looking for people to locate their cards on eBay, search engines, etc. So I will say that I can understand if you want to give a seller the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, they're putting in error cards because they want you to find them because you're an error card collector, that might be one thing. For the heading or listing title description. But in the actual body description, here's what it should say. Something like, hey, I wanted you to find these cards, so I titled them as error cards. But realistically, they're nothing more than uncut sheet cutouts, which are pretty darn cool and pretty darn limited, but pretty darn not error cards. And in fact, with Pokemon having switched over their licensing from Wizards of the Coast to Nintendo back in 2003, the production circumstances became much more professional as they've come many more years, grown since then. So we don't have as many things unaccounted for coming out the back doors of Pokemon like uncut sheets and those kinds of things. Pokemon, not Pokemon. Not gender specific. Pokemon. Women, men. Women. Okay, so we haven't seen these square cuts available for many years now because things have become a lot more by the board and accounted for all the way around. So I'm going to show you these base cards first with a little bit of surprise in a minute after those. So again, I don't handle these very often because of the nature of them not being anything at this moment in time. So I will show you the square cuts, Alakazam, Blastoise. I'm not going to show you the backs because there's nothing on the backs except square corner blue backs like normal. Okay, Blastoise. Most of you are familiar with these. These are really a nice shape, these cards. Again, I haven't been touched. They've just been sitting in binder pages through this whole time. Chansey, Charizard. Sometimes in the corners, again, we're going to get better cameras hopefully soon because you guys are going to get my subscriber numbers up. But Charizard here, sometimes these cards have little black dots in the corners, depending where you can kind of see was kind of a point where you would be cutting them or a reason for how you would go and cut them out as far as kind of a marking to make sure things were cut somewhat evenly. Gyarados, I say Gyarados, but of course, whatever I say is probably completely wrong. Hitmonchan, Magneton, Mewtwo, Nidoking, 15 of these cards again. Ninetales, Poliwrath, Raichu, Venusaur, and see if I can pick up the last one here without breaking it or damaging it, which I probably can't. Just hang on a sec. I'm really coming back to the screen. Here we go. Zapdos. Get up there, Zapdos. Okay. All right, so those are the base set cards, the 15 square cuts that you'll sometimes find. All right, my surprise is in the back of this collection, there was actually one more set of square cut cards. And it was in the back of the Neo Discovery Unlimited set. So again, I'm told these are pretty rare. You don't see them very much anymore, but I wanted to show them to you. So here is Espeon, Fortress. This would be the 17 holo cards. I'll try to go just a smidge quicker, but Hitmontop. And you can see very sharp corners. Again, probably somebody using a very sharp precision type of cutting thing. These cards would have been obtained before 2004. So again, when this collector was really trying to pick up everything that was sort of out there at that time, but typically we don't see as much of these in the future. Kabutops, Magnemite, again, just that classic look of the cards with the holograms clean. We all loved this era back then. Politoed, Poliwrath, Scizor. Do any of you say Scizor? Smeargle, Tyranitar, Umbreon, let me know, you guys. Do you guys have any of these cards that are from other sets? Do people have from other sets? Again, I wouldn't know much about them, so just happened to be these were the two the one that I ended up buying and the one that was in the back of the other one. So let me know if you happen to know of other sets where these exist too. Love to find out. Buffett, and finally Yanma. So that's the square cuts. Again, coming off the uncut sheets like you see behind me. With that, I'm going to conclude today's video. Again, my heartfelt appreciation for watching, hanging out. Please, please, please continue to comment, like, subscribe, tell a friend. I only have several more hundred subscribers that I need. Yeah, because that's not an overwhelming figure. To get to the point where I owe you guys new cameras, new mics, better editing software, maybe a shave, maybe a haircut. I'm running out of dress clothing now as I continue to dress up each video more. So, you know, let's get it done right, okay? Let's get out there. Tell me a Pokemon character. Tell me a blood type. Tell me the story of your life. Tell me any darn thing you want, okay? Just keep telling me stuff so we can build this into something special. Take care, guys. Great to see you again. Can't wait to do it again soon. Bye-bye.